We're very pleased to have Doug Farr and Associates to come to Traverse City. He's a well-known planner and new urbanist that is nationally known, and he comes with, I think, the type of balance that we need of this community that cares a lot about a good town character, but also that cares about the environment, and he has that type of balance. And the team that he's brought is a rock star group, and they're going to help us with the redesign of A Street corridor. So it's really the street and all the uses that go along that street. There's going to be a design type of workshop. We call it a charrette. That's going to happen on May 16th through the 21st. We're going to have a kickoff meeting that's going to happen on April 20th. To make this successful, we need to have the public come out and speak out. How do they want to see this street? A Street has been kind of languishing. It's a street that has great potential. It's in the center part of our community. It's on the edge of our downtown. It's an area that has great promise, and we need to have the public tell us what they would like to see. What is their vision of A Street? How can it work better for Traverse City? How can it work better for them? So I'd like to introduce Doug Farr from Farr Associates.
Farr Associates is delighted to be working in Traverse City. Traverse City is a mecca, it's a destination, it's the place everyone wants to be. It's got the best of Northern Michigan beauty, Northern Michigan small town, it's got culture, it's got the restaurants, it's got Lake Michigan, it's got Boardman Lake, it's got great neighborhoods, all sorts of great things going for it, so it's a pleasure to be working here. Our assignment for our associates and our consultant team is to take a look at the 8th Street corridor. 8th Street is a lot of things. It's a crosstown connector. That's the way a lot of people probably experience it. For people in the neighborhoods adjacent to it, it's a barrier. It's pretty hard to walk to the lake or walk into downtown across it. For the businesses along it, it's their livelihood. It's their vitality. It's their front door. And so the project consists of working with each of those constituencies that sees this same asset very differently and come up with a long-term vision for it. And two other things. One is the zoning. Oftentimes people think of the 8th Street corridor, oh, you mean this public space from the face of one building across the street to the face of the other. Yes, that is true, but also the land uses that face both sides of the street, and then half a block or a block back. That's also our responsibility, and then we're going to turn that into a form-based code, which is a new type of visual zoning code, which makes things a lot more predictable and clear to neighbors and the development community what is allowed. And so we will invite folks in. We're going to do an intensive one-week process from May 16th to May 20th. There'll be public meetings May 16th in the evening, May 18th in the evening, and May 20th and that late afternoon on a Friday, where we invite people in and tell us, did we do it well, and do you like this better than that? So we cut and paste that all together, and on the 20th we should have a so-called final plan. It'll get refined after that, and then it'll be turned into a code that will hopefully get adopted by the commissioner sometime late summer or early fall, and we'll have a project. There are a lot of communities across the country that have streets like 8th Street, where they're maybe known for or thought of as a kind of crosstown or a kind of a trafficked street that also have businesses and on them and houses just off them. And so, there's a whole collection of projects around the country. We've been involved in a number of them where this planning and the resulting zoning clarifies a vision going forward. And what does this do? It unleashes a lot of economic development potential. I think that Traverse City, as I said, is an in-demand place to be. More people want to be here than are here. People may be afraid of that and afraid of change that instills, but I will say unplanned change to me is scarier than planned change. So this is planned change. You will know what's coming. You'll have a say in shaping what that is. And so when that plan is done and the predictability is established, good things happen. The plan gets built. So I encourage people to come once the plan is drafted and adopted and the code is adopted and in play. Things will start happening. the state of the art these days in doing a charrette or a 1-week intensive workshop, it's really cool, the cool stuff you can do now. So for example, I know there's a lot of understandable concern and maybe even heartburn about the change that was made, the street diet that was installed on 8th Street a year or so back. So one of the things that we routinely do nowadays is if we want to consider a change to the street, we use traffic cones, for example, to just go test it. You think it'll be better if it's this way, put it better that way? We'll put cones in the street in real time and make sure that it works. So that kind of testing, I think it will, I think it won't. Fine, let's put the cones in and see if it actually works right now. So that real-time testing is a new thing that we do. We also do a lot of keypad polling, which is a fancy way of you can vote, almost like you have your TV remote. You press buttons and say, I like that one more than that one. We do that in real time, and that gets a lot of feedback. We illustrate, computers are better, everything's in 3D. You can imagine what it will be like and fly through. We do that. We also like something that we would do for the open house in June or so, July. When we create the master plan for the corridor, we'll actually propose to print that out like billboard size, like 20 feet by 30 feet, and people can sort of walk on it, find their house, find their business, find their favorite restaurant or bar, and imagine how it would be transformed. We work really hard to make the plan visible to people who maybe can't read reports or don't care to read reports or read a two-dimensional drawing. We make it kind of come to life. One of the strategies we've talked about for communicating to the public why the planning process is important and why we'd like to encourage them to attend meetings is we talked about this idea of posting some signs along the corridor so that if you're passing through it, signs that might evoke an experience. Ever been stuck in a traffic backup here? Ever tried to cross this street during rush hour? Ever tried to stop at one of these stores and had a hard time doing it? Those kinds of things to remind people, there are sort of things that engage me and help me with my daily life here. And so trying to get those and translate those into an invitation to come to the meetings. I understand there's been a lot of planning here in Traverse City, and that's a good thing. It is actually a sign of a very vibrant and healthy community, the fact that people come out and are interested in the future of the place. So people can legitimately ask us, why come to this one? I've been to a lot in the past. So this is the project where, unlike prior project, prior ones were visionary. This one is specific. We are going to identify street improvements in the right-of-way and on adjacent streets and development. The street improvements will be plus or minus a foot, so it's really right down to hand over to the engineers to make this thing work. And then the buildings will get translated into zoning, which is also down to the inch, how precise it is. So this is the step that becomes very precise. So if you're interested in both the big picture and the details, please come to the meetings. People think of streets, it's funny, people think of streets sometimes as just conduits for cars. They're like car sewers, and that would be the kind of, there are probably streets in the region that are like that, that are auto-dominated, and when you see a pedestrian, you know they're there because their car broke down. 8th Street is not that. It is absolutely a street with sidewalks and some pedestrian presence now. The plan will help shape the question of what does it want to be in the future? Does it want to go more towards cars, more towards people? Our bias is that in a downtown like this and so close to downtown Traverse City, this wants to accommodate pedestrians more than it does now. And so that's likely to be the direction. In saying that, I am not anti-car. Cars are part of it, part of everyday life for most everybody. So they're in there, they have to be accommodated, but it's when things are optimized for the car, the pedestrian should run for the hills. And it becomes unsafe for families, for seniors, for kids that don't drive and have to still get to school or get to the park to get around. So our work is to do the best for sort of the broadest possible public, what's called the public health, safety, and welfare. That's our job. And so, and we hope, we have a lot of fun doing it, and we plan to do our best work here in Traverse City. A 2013 study of the downtown area included 8th Street, and that study identified about half of the parcels along the street as potentials for redevelopment. And so this plan and the resulting code will identify some of those sites. It will make explicit what the regulatory world is like so that there will be absolutely development opportunities emerging from this study. And we will want them to go forward. This is the beauty of a study that has the high levels of participation and that result in a predictable regulatory environment like a form-based code, is that the community should be excited when the projects go forward, not mad, because these are projects that we've all agreed, all of us, better the community and build towards a common vision of what the corridor wants to be. In addition to that, I think there are opportunities for innovation. So we hope to work with the Traverse City Watershed Group here, for example. Water quality is key to tourism in the north, and it's often the perception that cities don't have a part to play in that. So street design actually has innovated a lot in the last few years in terms of opportunities within the public right-of-way to capture and filter rainwater to improve water quality before it discharges into a lake. So we're going to be looking at cool stuff like that, innovations in street lighting. Traverse City Light and Power controls the street lights, and we're going to be meeting with them and seeing if we can do some cool stuff with them. So, and then, green buildings and sustainability is part of the ethos here. It seems that way to me. It is ours too. So we'll look for opportunities to incorporate that too, because it makes for a vibrant town. It makes Traverse City even more remarkable. By that I mean is a city that has remarks. You want to tell your friend, hey, listen to what Traverse City just did. They did this really cool thing. They're doing this green thing with this street, and it's really a great place. So those are the outcomes we're after. I grew up in Detroit. I went to high school at Cass Tech, which was a high school downtown, rode the bus back when Detroit was a full city in the 70s. Yes, that long ago. So I grew up loving cities, and then I spent a summer, 1977, at the University of Michigan Biological Station in Pellston, and so I was introduced to the Great North and water quality and living on a lake and all those sorts of things, and my life course was set after that summer. So I was city plus environment, and that's what our practice has now been about for about 25 years. And so cities are the settlement pattern that humans live in that's most benign to the environment. When you live in a city, you drive the fewest cars, you live in the smallest house, you consume the least land, your carbon footprint's the lowest. So Traverse City, even a city the size of Traverse City, that's true for here. But cities can be made even more sustainable. So we're going to totally fold that into the 8th Street plan in ways I don't, and plays that the public will have to coach us what is important to them.